Coach Holland here as a guest speaker. Of course, this is a Spanish class, so it took me a while to think of a way, how can I tie a lesson in for a Spanish class, and how can I get Coach Hall as a guest speaker? And then with this month being Black History Month, and with Mrs. Amaker wanting us as teachers to cover Black history in some way in our class, so then we watched the Pelotero documentary. And I don't think you've seen that, have you, Coach Hall? Yeah, okay. What could you tell us about the documentary from your perspective?
Pretty much they had to do more with less, I should say. Because meaning that they come from the Dominican Republic, and they have all the resources and everything, and also they have to jump through the hoops sometimes to come to America to play baseball. You know, the players in America, they have it a little easier, so to speak, because over there they was trying to see like their ages and everything, and they had to go through these doctors to get bone scans, MRI, bone scans, so they had a very difficult time trying to make it over here.
Right, good. Okay, so coaches, he knows what documentary we're talking about. Okay, so we're kind of on the same page there. So moving into our questions class, and of course you guys all have the questions under your desk. So let's just kind of go in order and let's work through these to guide our discussion. So how about we start over there? How about we start back there with Sammy? Would you like to read section 1, question 1?
In the documentary Pelotero, we saw players who have very little but give everything to the game. How do you motivate your players to keep showing up when they feel like the underdogs?
Well, this year we have the underdogs pretty much every game this year except for maybe 2 games. And the reason is because I saw the players like 6'1", 61 inches, 61 inches, and most teams saw the player like 6'6" or 6'7", you know, 6'3", 6'2", you know. Yeah. And the only thing I tell my players is, hey, just compete, play with passion, you know, and purpose, you know. So just compete and fight hard. And I tell you, being an underdog is hard. Yeah, so being an underdog is hard. But our players come in and practice hard every day and go out there and compete very hard every game.
Yeah, and I've personally seen Coach. I've only been able to make it to 1 game, but man, when he's out there, it's passion. It's 100% intense. It's all turned on out there, and the players do a great job too. There's only been 5 of them. Okay, so having him touching on the theme of being underdogs, let's move to question number 2. How about Johnny? Question number 2.
Our school doesn't always have the same resources as the bigger programs. How do you teach your team to make the most of what they do have?
So so the good thing about this year is we have 3 new resources on our basketball side, which is Coach Boyd. He's the girls' coach. He played college ball and everything, so he's a pretty good resource. And then Coach Gilbert, he's the varsity boys basketball head coach. He played basketball in the military overseas and everything, so another good resource. And then myself, I had a scholarship to play basketball back in the 90s. Didn't take it, but I guess I'm a very good resource also for our basketball team. So.
Yeah, that's great. That's new this year, class. I mean, I'm just a new teacher, so I don't know everybody. But was there an additional question back there?
Why didn't you take that scholarship?
What's that?
Why didn't you take that scholarship?
Oh, because I ended up going to the military. So I did 8 years in the military.
Wow, that's great. See, I didn't know about his military background, so this is cool that we're having this discussion. Okay. All right, let's move on to number 3. How about up here with number 3, please, Liam?
You've taken on a team at an underfunded school that is currently losing games. How do you define success for the boys if it isn't reflected on the scoreboard?
Well, for me, success is measured by effort. So we come out, play hard, you know, compete every game, just play hard, practice hard and everything. And the scoreboard might not say that we won, but in our hearts we won because we go out and compete every day in practice and every game. So like I said, success is measured by effort.
Thanks, Liam. Let's move to section 2 on the next page, and section 2, number 4. Would you mind reading the question, please, Ivy?
So, oh, right. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
With me being a custodian slash janitor, like for instance, during like game days and everything, I like when the fans or the parents comes in or the other team comes in and say, hey, Ellicott is a pretty clean school. And part of the reason it's clean because of me and the other staff, you know. So I take pride in doing my job. I know I'm a custodian or a janitor, but I take pride in doing my job, and I like to hear people that say good things about Ellicott. Also, like getting the gym set up, help set the gym up and everything. I get all the floors cleaned and everything, and also the locker rooms. So I like when teams come and say, hey, Ellicott really take pride in they bathrooms and they lockers in their school.
What is the most important lesson you want a player to take away from your team that has nothing to do with basketball?
Most important thing is if you put in the work, the results will come. You know, just like in school when it's time for a test, if you study for the test, you're gonna ace it, or not ace it, you're gonna pass it. You know, so you guys put in the work, the results will come.
All right, let's get number 6. Pedro, would you mind stepping up here and reading number 6 for us?
How do you handle frustration, both your own and your own players when things aren't going as planned?
Well, for me, on my own, like for instance, if I'm doing a project at home, and I come up on a problem or a situation that I cannot solve, sometimes I step back, get some sweet tea. It might take a minute, sometimes it might take 10 minutes, but I step away from the problem, get a clear head, and then come attack the problem. You know, that's how I handle my frustration. And then with my players, sometimes like during the game, I might call a timeout, talk to them, try to get them calm. Or if that don't work, sometimes I would take them out the game for, let's say, sometimes 30 seconds, sometimes a minute, sometimes a quarter. And then when they're ready to go back in, I put them back out. I put them back in the game.
That's a great answer. The game I saw, there was only 5. We only had 5, so no substitutions. Okay, so then I guess my question would be, you must be talking about other games when you did have other substitutions.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, well, with the game going, we only have 5. So we have 5 timeouts.
Well, okay.
Like, use my timeouts very, very wisely.
There you go. That's
Yes.
the key. Thank you for that additional detail. All right, let's get the next question up here. Now we're on section 3. So can we have Derek, would you mind stepping up and reading question 7, Derek?
Looking back at your own journey, what is one thing you wish you knew at 15 or 16 years old, the age of your student?
How serious school was. Because I say that because you know, in high school, I really didn't take school serious because I played sports. I played football and basketball. The only thing I had to do was have a C average to play sports, right? But then when I didn't go to college, I went to the military. So before I went to the military, you have to take a test to get in the military. And the better you do, the more jobs you have to choose from. My ASVAB, correct? Yes, the ASVAB, yes. And then if you don't do so well, you get like fewer jobs. And then with that said, I did 8 years in the military, like I said. In my last 2 years, I decided to go to college. And I took the placement test, you know. And if I would have studied back in high school, I'm thinking, I would have did way, way better. But then I had to take all these remedial courses and everything before I can actually start my college courses. So take school very, very seriously right now.
Okay, next question. Sabine, would you mind reading number 8, please?
Basketball and baseball are often called the universal language. Even though you may or may not speak Spanish, do you see similarities between the players' struggles and the struggles of athletes we saw in the Dominican Republic?
Actually, I did because so there was in the Dominican. We are in a small town, Ellicott, and so exposure, meaning like here the players don't get much exposure because we're in a small town. Over there in DR, same thing, not much exposure. And then also the thing I noticed also is over there, those players have to like really prove themselves. Here also, if you're in Ellicott, you can score 20 points a game, but they're gonna still say if you ain't do it against the big schools or whatever. So Ellicott, over there, you must prove yourself like I can't even explain it because of it is so difficult when you're in a small school or like in a DR. It's difficult.
All right, let's move to question 9. Leon, would you mind stepping up and reading question 9 for us?
What does Black History Month mean to you personally in the context of being a coach and a mentor?
So for me, Black History Month is to help educate a lot of people, from my peers to my players. Like for instance, excuse me, coming back from the bus ride sometimes, we have like a 2.5-hour ride one way there, 2.5-hour ride back. And sometimes some of the players ask me questions like how I grew up, what was it like growing up, in my high school and everything. And just like where I'm from right now, in my high school right now today, there's about 3,000 kids in my high school right now. And that's a lot of kids in high school, 3,000 in high school. And then when I grew up, it was like 2,500 in my high school, and it was like 50% Hispanic, 25% Black. I think it was like 25, 50, 25, 20% white or Caucasian, and the other 5 is other.
What high school did you go to?
Cork Senior High.
Is that here?
Miami, Florida.
Oh.
Miami. But just like to educate people on, growing up Black, because my players ask me all kind of questions, and you guys know some of my players, so they ask me all kind of questions, and I spend a lot of time with my players. We spend a lot of time together, so just educate people.
Yeah, and that's myself as a teacher, right? Because I can't speak much to Black History Month, but when I met you and when I saw you, I thought, man, I gotta get him in here. So this is me giving my platform, and this is super beneficial for everybody here at the school. All right, let's move on to let's go to section 4 then, and let's have Dave. Do you want to step up and read number 1 on section 4, please?
Thinking back to when you were a student in high school, was there a challenge in terms of racial inequality and how you overcome it?
A little bit because, like I said, my high school consists of a lot of Hispanics. I had a lot of Hispanic friends, so a lot of times I go to their houses and everything, and their grandparents spoke nothing but Spanish. And their parents spoke a little bit of English, but mostly Spanish. So with that said, I had to learn how to speak Spanish. Poquito. Muy poquito. And so that's what happened with me. So then also my teachers, a lot of my teachers in high school back in the 90s, they still was learning English also. So it was hard for me to communicate with them sometimes and everything, because as y'all know that I stutter, so it's hard for me to communicate with them sometimes also. So, but I had to learn Spanish a little bit though. And by the way, my middle name is Enrico. That's my middle name. People say, how is that? Because I'm from Miami. So my parents gave me, my name is Tyrone Enrico. So.
And of course this isn't on the script, but it's something that caught my attention when you mentioned that that a lot of your teachers were basically just learning English.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me more about were they Cubans, Puerto Ricans?
Okay, yes. So most of them was Puerto Rican and Cubans. We didn't have many Mexicans in Miami. So most of them was Puerto Rican and Cuban.
Okay. Yeah, because it's a little bit difficult when your teacher, like on paper they speak English, right? But even if they don't speak English as a native, it's a little bit more difficult to understand. So that's also a challenge to overcome. Okay. And no, this is a great discussion.
And then even back in the 90s, the Cubans and Puerto Ricans, they came with their own little dialect, and sometimes they couldn't understand what each other was saying. Sometimes, even though they're supposed to speak in Spanish. Right. But they couldn't understand each other sometimes.
Yeah, that's a great point because sometimes they develop like a kind of a pidgin language or kind of like a little dialect.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, that's great.
And then what's good about nowadays is you got this thing called cell phones that you can type in something in Spanish to translate for us in Spanish or English, and we have a conversation like that right there.
Exactly.
Back then it was nothing like that.
There was no cell phones back then. Understood. Yeah, there was no internet, no cell phones, right?
No.
Yeah, that was a different time, and that's also another thing, class, because when I was like I'm a little bit. I remember a little bit when I was first in high school, the internet just barely first started coming out, but we didn't have access to it. Okay, and so even thinking back, even before that, when we had internet, there was no cell phone. That was a different time period, and that's why I wanted to bring in Coach Hall as a resource. Because I thought, man, if I was in high school and they brought in someone with that kind of life experience, I would want to know about what life was like for them back in that time. Okay? So this is great. Everybody's doing a great job participating. Let's move on to section 4, number 2. Alana, would you like to step up and read question 2?
Did you have a mentor or a coach who looked like you or understood your background? How did that change your outlook on the future?
Yes, I did. His name was Coach. His name was Coach Springer back in Miami. He'll always tell us that nothing is given. You got to earn everything that you get. So nothing is given. And if you want something, work hard for it. Because you might not succeed the first time or the second time. But then keep going. Same thing with like school. School is not easy. College is not gonna be easy. It might take 2 years to get a degree. It might take 3. It might take 4. Sometimes it might take 8. But keep going forward and keep pushing.
Okay, let's move to question 3, section 4. Alec, do you want to come up and read number 3, please?
Section 4.
Yes, please.
How did your experience in high school shape the way you chose to be the young man today?
So in high school, again, my background in sports. So in high school, I was not the biggest, strongest or fastest, but I worked hard though, and I became bigger, stronger, and faster. And so by my senior year in high school, I made all county in basketball, and that's how I was able to get the scholarship that I had in basketball. So just keep working on yourself.
Let's move on to section 5, class. Let's go over here again to Sammy. You want to step up and read section 5, number 4, please?
Many of our students are Mexican American or Latin American. In your experience, what are some of the struggles that Black and Brown youth share when it comes to education and sports?
So growing up, for education, I didn't want if I was down a grade or whatever, I did not want to go to tutoring. Tutoring was for me was a big no-no for me. I'm like, no, I don't want tutoring. And some of my Hispanic friends was doing the same thing, like, no, I don't want tutoring. But then when they was almost ineligible to play, then they decided to, go to tutoring or ask their peers for help. But they did not want to, we did not want to go to tutoring. I don't know why is that, but that was just back in the day, I don't want any help. Until I was almost ineligible one time. I'm like, hey, I need some help now. So that's my biggest thing is school. Number one thing is school first, after second.
All right, let's go to section 5, number 5. Johnny, you want to come up and read this one?
How can Black and Latino students better support one another to ensure that everyone in our community succeeds?
What I would say is, you know, if you're gonna say something, be positive, you know, because being negative can affect, you know, a person like badly, especially being young. See, I see all these signs around the school, like these anti-bullying signs, no bullying. So when you say something like bad about somebody or something, to me that's bullying and everything. And so my grandma always tell me, if you have nothing good to say about somebody, don't say anything at all. You know, that's me right there. But sometimes my coaches, I do get on them too hard sometimes. Like, come on, you can do better. I do.
And more, but.
Well.
Yeah, I've seen, like I say, that game I went and I saw Coach, man, it was just 100% intensity, and he was just out there, he was moving around, he was advocating for his players, he didn't have any substitutions, he was calling out the reps when something was not called in our favor. I mean, it was super entertaining to watch, okay? And now that's going way above and beyond, because if somebody's just there for the meager pay that coaching pays, or the meager pay that a janitor pays, and they're not putting their heart and soul into it, then everybody else is going to be able to look around and tell. Not that I'm saying there's anything wrong with that, right? Because sometimes you just perform at the level of your play. But this man here, Coach Hall, that's not who he is. He's all or nothing, okay? And I've only known him for several months, right? But that's why I wanted someone like that in our class to come in and speak to you, because you can't teach passion. That's something that's innate in everybody, okay? Let's move to, I think we're on number 6, the last question on section 5. And Leah, would you mind reading that one?
In Pelotero, we saw how young men are sometimes seen only for what they can do on the field. Have you ever felt like society overlooks your character or intelligence in favor of physical or labor coaching? How do you teach your players to be more than just athletes?
In society, yes, I think they overlook sometimes because of. I'll give an example. Like, for instance, to make it to, let's say, Hurricanes, Miami University, or Colorado, as a student, you know, you have to score an ACT or SAT. You have to score like high, like extremely high. But as an athlete, you don't have to score like the minimum, which is like a 700 or something like that on the SAT. So they look past his intelligence or her intelligence because they are an athlete. And to me, is that right? No. But that's society, right? And then, and like I said, my athletes, my team is, you are student first, athlete second. So I don't care who you are, if you don't make the right grades, you can't play. And that's the way it is. And that's the way it is. You are student athlete. So.
Okay, well, good job on asking the questions. You guys, just to kind of finish this up and tie everything all together, with learning Spanish, that's a new language. And you have to have a certain amount of tolerance for people that speak a little bit different than you do. Now, Coach and I speak a little bit different, right? We both speak English, but if I had the bad attitude, like, I can't understand that guy, I'm not even going to talk to him. Do you see what kind of a person I would have missed out on? Do you see what kind of a conversation I would have missed out on? So that's just for me as a Spanish teacher. If you're just willing to make just a little bit of extra effort to understand somebody or learn a little bit of their language, then you're going to be unlocking possibilities, and you're going to be unlocking access to who that person really is. So for me, that was so important to have a coach come in and share his life experience with us. I only know we had a half an hour, but at this point, are there any other additional questions that kind of relate to this, but that are not necessarily on our scripts, that anyone else would like to direct to Coach Paul while we have him here? Okay, no. Oh, you got one, Leon.
Yeah. Do I love my job? Which one? Coaching or custodian? Coaching. Yes, I love it. I love it because see, I see progress when like some players come in from the first day until now. So I see progress. So yes, I love it.
What about your military background?
My military background. I was So I was a tanker in the military. On the big tanks, the ones, the Abrams. I know I don't look it no more, but when I first joined the military, I was about 100 pounds lighter, and I joined the military. So, but yeah, so my military background is I was on the Abrams. In my duty stations, I was at Fort Stewart, Georgia, Fort Knox, Kentucky, and Fort Bliss, Texas.
What was your secondary?
My secondary?
Yeah, your secondary.
My second.
Like, did you do hazard or did you do like? What was your secondary?
My job in the military, supply sergeant. My secondary was supply sergeant.
If you can go back to high school, and would you rather get a scholarship for football or basketball?
Both.
You would take both?
Yes. So my plan was, when I got a scholarship for basketball, my plan was to play basketball and then walk onto the football team. That was my plan.
Oh.
So why did you change up to the military instead?
What up?
So why did you change up and go to the military instead?
Because my family members, I have about eight family members that was in prior to the military, and they said, hey man, you know, this would be a good thing for you. You can make a little money also, because I grew up. I didn't have anything growing up, and so joining the military, I can make a little money, learn some skills, you know, and help my family out. So that's why I joined for 8 years.
Those are great questions, you guys. Coach, do you have anything additional that you'd like to add before we wrap this up?
No.
Okay, well, let's give Coach a big hand, you guys. I give you guys a big hand. Yeah, I can see that everybody's in here locked in. You're paying attention. You guys did an excellent job. Everybody's getting 30 out of 30. Nobody has to turn anything in written. That's an extra protection on your grade that's going to help boost your grade. So, thank you. You can go ahead and